Pats Nation, welcome on in because today we got some NFL trade deadline rumors surrounding the New England Patriots for the 2025 season, man. I mean, look, let's just call a spade a spade. How good does it feel to finally be back in a situation where this is a genuine question? Should the New England Patriots be buyers or sellers at the NFL trade deadline? In fact, I feel like every single time that we talk about the deadline every single year in and year out, ever since 2020, if there ever is a true discussion, it's about the Patriots shipping off players and not about them actually acquiring players. 2023, there were rumors about Kyle Duggar being traded and Josh Uche being traded, but for the most part, the team pretty much stays pat at the deadline. This year, we're hearing the exact opposite. Now, there are rumors about the Patriots potentially shipping off some of their own players, but the main rumors that we are hearing about this trade deadline for New England in 2025 is all based around them adding depth, them adding players to try to make some type of run. As we all know, this team is currently 5-2. They are at top of the AFC East. In fact, the New England Patriots are number 2 in the AFC. Last time I checked, at least, are number 2 in the AFC, only behind the Colts. They are the 3rd team overall right now in the NFL. With that being said, this is a team that we are projecting right now to immediately compete for the AFC East. This is a team that we are expecting is going to compete for a playoff spot. In fact, it's really getting to the point when you look at the remainder of the Patriots schedule, as long as everybody stays healthy, which, Pat Station, come on, knock on wood with me, knock on wood right now, because if you don't knock on that wood, and let me tell you, someone goes down, I'm going to blame it on you. I'm going to make a whole video about you that you caused that injury. But as long as this team stays healthy, this is a team that I think at this point we are projecting to go to the playoffs. And when you go to the playoffs and you're making a postseason run, it's not all about just having a good, few starting pieces here and there, but it's also about having good depth. Let the Philadelphia Eagles be a beautiful blueprint of this, that when you reach the postseason, that depth matters just as much as your starters, because now you're playing up against starting caliber teams. You're playing up against the best teams in the NFL. And if you're going to beat the best teams, you got to play as the best team, not just 3 out of 4 quarters, but you got to play as the best team 4 out of 4 quarters. And that's why I think we're starting to hear the Patriots be in on a lot of these different players. And so obviously, you guys see the title. You see that the Patriots are interested in 2 specific players based off of reports, and that is going to be in wide receivers Chris Olave of the New Orleans Saints, and is going to be Jordan Addison, the wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings. And by the way, guys, I'm not pulling this out of my butt. This is a legitimate report, okay? So Ricky Scoops comes in from Twitter, and he was the first one that got all of these rumors about the Patriots being linked back to wide receivers going in the first place. It blew up all over social media when Ricky said, the Patriots have been on the phone with teams and are aggressively looking to trade for a wide receiver before the deadline. Keep in mind, guys, the NFL trade deadline is November 4th. It is right around the bend. If the Patriots are going to do anything, they have, roughly about 2 weeks-ish, week and a half-ish. He went on to say that it sounds like Drake Maye may be getting another weapon. Now, I know a lot of you are going to read this and you're going to say, Patriots Global, what are you doing? You're just making a video based off of what some noob says on Twitter. And I thought the same thing at first. I saw people posting it and I said, I'm not going to go too far with this until I see something backing it up. So again, take what Ricky is saying with a grain of salt, but what I will say is that Ricky Scoops is not just some noob on Twitter who is out there posting random things. And so nobody really knows who Ricky is, but Ricky Scoops has broken big-time NFL news before anybody else, before Adam Schefter, before Ian Rappaport, before Tom Pelissero. So he hasn't gotten everything right, but he has gotten multiple things right. So he does have a track record, so take it with a grain of salt. Now, the big reason that I ultimately decided that, okay, I am going to make a video about this, and I'm trying to find the exact quote. Just had to put up. So here we go. So the big reason that I'm talking about Jordan Addison and Chris Olave here specifically is because after the report from Ricky Scoops, we had Albert Breer, who is very locked in with the NFL. He is a reliable source. He's reliable, especially for the New England Patriots, right? And he came out after Ricky Scoops said this, and he said, and I quote, the Patriots don't want to give up future picks for a short-term fix. Underline that word, short-term fix. But players like Chris Olave or Jordan Addison would qualify as long-term moves. He put both those guys out there by name, okay? Nobody told Albert Breer that he had to list any guys by name, but he came out there and he said, yeah, Chris Olave, Jordan Addison, those are guys to watch for the New England Patriots. And so when looking at this Patriots trade deadline, whether we're talking about wide receivers or whether we're talking about any player, something you guys have to keep in mind is they're not going to go out there and they're not going to trade for a DeAndre Hopkins, right? A guy that might be able to help them right now, might be able to give them some depth right now, but is 33 years old. He's on the decline. He's going to help you for maybe 2025, but after that, he's not going to do much for you. If New England is going to make any moves, it is going to come with a guy that is young, that is in his prime. It can not just help the team right now, but is also going to help the team for the foreseeable future. If New England is going to give up any type of draft compensation, that from what it sounds like, the Patriots view their draft compensation very heavily. They view it of importance. So if they're going to give something up, it's going to have to be well worth their while. Now, when I look at a guy like Chris Olave, and I do want to pull up his numbers here for you guys, I think that there's a good chance that he certainly could be traded. You look at the New Orleans Saints, they fit under this category of a team that is obviously not very good. They're in a brand new system, year one of a brand new system, brand new head coach, OC, DC, all that good stuff. There's not a lot of talent on the New Orleans Saints, and there's not a whole lot of pieces that they could realistically trade off to add some extra draft compensation to start rebuilding that team from the bottom up. You might be throwing out the idea, what about Alvin Kamara? Could that be a guy they trade? They've come out and say they're not looking to trade Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara said, if they want to trade me, I'll go sip drinks in Acapulco before they trade me. I'll retire before they decide to trade me. So Alvin Kamara is definitely off the board, meaning that they have to now pivot. Who's a guy that could get them good draft compensation? Net them a first, maybe even a second round pick there. That's Chris Olave. And Chris Olave for the Saints has definitely had some inconsistencies. And the other thing, too, is that they got Raheed Shaheed, who's also a very good player for them. He's a speedster, and he's in a contract year, meaning that they're going to have to pay him at the end of the season if they want to, maintain those rights to him. So with that being said, Chris Olave, I do think, is a realistic option. Pulling up his numbers here real quick for you guys. Let me take this off. This is what you get when you do a live show and edit it. So looking here at Chris Olave's numbers, obviously 6'1", 187 pounds, like mentioned earlier. He's 25 years old, so fits under that category of the type of guy that the Patriots could look to trade for. And I think another question for a lot of Patriots fans is, do we need to trade for a wide receiver? And for me personally, I don't think that it is a dire need. And so when I'm looking at the possibility of the Patriots adding that wide receiver, I know a lot of Patriots fans have thrown out the idea of Jacoby Myers. I see it all over Twitter. Patriots fans putting a little eye emoji when we're hearing that, Jacoby Myers wants to be traded and that he's a guy that realistically could be. I don't want Jacoby Myers. No disrespect to Jacoby. I'm someone who loves homecoming reunions, especially here in New England. But at the end of the day, the Patriots have a good wide receiver core. Okay, if you look at I believe it was weeks 5 and 6. It was either weeks 5 and 6 or weeks 6 and 7, I believe it was weeks 5 and 6, the Patriots had the highest graded wide receiver in the NFL in both of those weeks. So the fact that in 2 out of 7 games so far this season, the Patriots have had the highest wide receiver in the NFL with that respective week in Stephon Diggs and Kayshon Boutte, this team is not looking for depth at wide receiver. This team is not looking for a number 2 or a number 3 or a complementary piece. We have all that. In fact, this wide receiver core is playing so well that we don't know what guys like Efton Chisholm have for this team. We don't know what guys like Kyle Williams have for this team. And so based off of these reports, me reading between the lines, what I believe is that the Patriots will only go out and trade for a wide receiver that is young and more specifically can be a wide receiver 1, a bona fide wide receiver 1. Now, look, yes, Stephon Diggs is currently on pace for over 90 catches and 1,100 total yards. But Stephon Diggs is also, 31, 32 years old? Patriots can get out of that deal every single year under his contract, under his 3-year deal. And so what are the expectations for Diggs, not just in 2025, but in 2026 and 2027? You hope that he can keep performing at this level, but if he doesn't, you don't want to essentially be held bent on Stephon Diggs being your game changer at wide receiver, because as he gets older and older, we know once receivers reach that 30-year-old mark, they start to fall off. They're not going to play as well. At some point, they're just going to start being on the decline. If you can have a situation where you bring in a Chris Olave or you bring in a Jordan Addison that can come in, be that wide receiver 1. Stephon Diggs can be wide receiver 1B, and then everybody else falls underneath. Now the New England Patriots go from a top 10 passing offense to very well could and should be a top 5 passing offense. And so me personally, like I said, I wouldn't accept anything other than a true wide receiver 1. But if you can go out and you can get that guy, you do it. Don't just get comfortable with the Stephon Diggs. You don't know how long it's going to be this good and this high of performance with Diggs week in and week out. So make sure you get that insurance policy for your young quarterback in Drake Maye. He's on that rookie deal. You have that 5th-year option. He's playing at a historical level. So with that being said, capitalize right now while you have Drake Maye on that rookie deal. And while you don't have a running game, the best way to capitalize and keep succeeding offensively is to make sure that your passing offense is as good as humanly possible. Now, looking at some of Chris Olave's numbers here so far this season, PFF has graded him with a 72.3 overall PFF grade, which ranks 29th out of 82 receivers. I always like to tell you guys, hey, PFF, I think, is good in some aspects. I think they're a little bogus in others. So take this with a grain of salt. Take it with whatever you will do with it. I just come here to tell you guys the facts and tell you guys the numbers, and you can make up your opinions with the information given. Has an overall receiving grade of 74, which ranks 25th out of 82 wide receivers. He currently has been targeted 68 times, which is the second most out of 82 wide receivers. He has 44 receptions, which is ranked 5th out of 82 wide receivers for 440 yards, which ranks 13th out of 82 wide receivers, and 3 touchdowns, which ranks 17th out of 82 wide receivers. So he is on pace to have another 1,000-yard season. And that's what you're getting with Chris Olave, is you're getting a guy that when he is on the field and when he is healthy, you know that he can put up 1,000 yards for you. This isn't one of those guys where it's like, okay, he's a good player. I think he can be a wide receiver 1, but he's never actually put up 1,000 yards. No, Chris Olave has been there. He's done that. Even looking at some of his other numbers so far this season, 1 drop on the season, he's averaging about 10 yards per reception. He has 2.5 yards after the catch per reception. And when New Orleans quarterbacks are targeting him this season, he has an overall rating, the quarterback has an overall rating of 97.7. When I look at Chris Olave, I like him. I think that he would fit the Patriots. He has the size and the ability to play inside and outside with that versatility. He has some speed. He can stretch the field a little bit. He's a good route runner. I think he's really underrated in contested situations. But there's a big problem with Chris Olave for me, to where when it comes down to Olave, it comes down to me, what are you giving up? I'm not giving up a first-round pick for Chris Olave. I'm just not doing it. A second-round pick, okay, now we're talking. Now I'm interested, okay? Not saying I'll necessarily do it, but I'm interested because I believe that the best ability is availability. And if you're telling me that I'm taking on a guy that has some injury problems, a guy who's scared to get hit, obviously he's been in the league for a little bit amount of time, versus using that second round pick on a guy that if I hit on, I'm going to get on a rookie deal for 4 years, you got to make sure you're enticing me enough. And with Chris Olave, he's dealt with concussion after concussion after concussion, to where you guys know how we talk about Tua all the time, to where, dude, Tua has so many concussions. How much longer can this guy truly play in the National Football League before he's forced by his friends and family to just medically retire? It's starting to get to that same point with Chris Olave, to where it feels like he's getting so many concussions that if that keeps happening, he's going to be forced to step away from football because there's going to be too much damage done there. And, you know, obviously being with Roundtable Sports, we have a creator for each respective team. And I was talking to TJ, our New Orleans Saints creator, about Chris Olave, his thoughts on him and this potential of him getting traded. And he said there's real potential of Chris Olave getting traded. And he said what's annoying for Saints fans about Chris Olave is more specifically the fact that he does have some issues with drops. He had 6 drops his rookie year. Then the year after, he had 5 drops. And then last year in 2024, he had 1 drop, but he also missed the majority of the season and now already has 1 drop on the season this year. He also said that if you even look back at that Patriots game, you can see times where it looks like Chris Olave is going to get hit, and Chris Olave just gets scared. Like point blank, just gets scared that he's going to get hit. Because of all of these concussions that he's had over time, Now he's not playing freely. Now he has this in the back of his head where he's too busy looking over his shoulder when he goes up to get a pass. Instead of being concentrated on bringing the football down, he's more worried on, am I going to get clocked if I make this catch? And because of that, there is some inconsistencies with him. I mean, if you look back at that Patriots game, there was a opportunity where Chris Olave should have converted on third down. Ultimately didn't, because he knew that he was going to get hit if he went up and caught that ball. And so he just avoided catching the football so that he didn't get hit. And so those are some of the things that you are going to get here if you do ultimately bring on Chris Olave. But like I said, he is a wide receiver one. He is still somebody that is very young, and he has put up 1,000 yards in the past. I mean, if you want to look at his 2024 numbers, not necessarily a whole lot to take away here, because again, he only played in so many games. In fact, does it say how many snaps he played? So he only played 202 pass snaps in 2024 before he went down with his season-ending injuries. But I mean, before he got injured, he was on a heater, 82.4 overall grade. That's when they had Derek Carr last season. And so another thing to remember with Chris Olave is that, no disrespect to Spencer Rattler, I think he's playing better than people are giving him credit for, but I say this with all respect, it's still Spencer Rattler, okay? I mean, Drake Maye to Spencer Rattler is like a massive, massive upgrade. And so I think you see when Chris Olave has better quarterback play, that does also elevate his play. I mean, he had an 83 overall receiving grade before going down. He was targeted 43 times, 32 receptions, 400 yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. And Derek Carr and company had an overall passer rating of 91.2 when going his way, and he was averaging 12.5 yards per reception. If you look at his numbers from 2023, now you're starting to see, when he's healthy, the damage that he can really do. I mean, he put up 1,100 total yards in 2023 when he was able to stay healthy. In 2022, when he was able to stay healthy, puts up, again, just over 1,000 total yards. And so, again, I think it's kind of give and take with Chris Olave. But if you're the Patriots, do you say, this is the guy that fits our system? He does have some injury problems, but if we want to go out and we want to get our proven wide receiver one to pair up with Drake Maye, at some point, you just have to pull the trigger. They could have gotten DK Metcalf this offseason. They elected to not do so. They didn't want the contract. They didn't think the personality fit the system. They didn't think that the player necessarily fit the system for what they were going to have to give up. And so if that's the case, you want to move on from him, at some point, you got to pull the trigger on one of these wide receivers, because wide receiver ones, they really become available every single year. At some point, you got to pull the trigger on a guy that is going to make sense for you. And I think with Chris Olave and Jordan Addison, both of those guys do make sense. And that's actually where I do want to transition on here to next, is I do want to talk about Jordan Addison, the second half of this report. And so real quick, I do want to pull his numbers up. But the cool thing about Jordan Addison, right, is I also reached out to Roundtable Sports Minnesota Vikings creator, One Bar, and I asked him, look, how realistic is this that you guys trade Jordan Addison? Because Jordan Addison is still on that rookie deal. There's no reason for Minnesota to go out there and trade Jordan Addison right now. And so when Albert Breer put that name out there of Jordan Addison, I was like, yeah, Chris Olave, I understand, but Jordan Addison, do you really want to trade a wide receiver one caliber player, like when you have a rookie quarterback that you still have and you guys are struggling offensively right now? Like, to me, that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Keep in mind too that Jordan Addison is younger than Chris Olave. Jordan Addison is 23 years old. And so talk about pairing a young Drake Maye up with a young wide receiver one, that both these guys could be here for the next decade easy. But I reached out to our good friend One Bar, and this is what he had to tell me. Knows the ins and outs of his team perfectly. Think of him as the Patriots global, but for the Minnesota Vikings. He said, and I quote, "For the Pats, it would be huge. It would be a huge win, no doubt. But at only 23 years old and still 1 year on the contract and a team option for that 5th-year deal that he believes would be picked up, he said, I think the Vikings asking price would be far too steep. If they were to trade him, I think it would be next year. I do feel they move on from him before his contract is up. Will be tough to pay him and Justin Jefferson along with some of the other guys' contracts." He went on to say that just think it's a year too early, even if the Vikings do implode over the next few weeks. They want to surround JJ McCarthy with as much players as possible to help out his development. Now, he did also go on to say that if the Patriots were able to acquire Jordan Addison, that he said that would be a damn good pickup. One bar went on to tell me that, I mean, he doesn't believe that it gets much better of a scheme fit for Jordan Addison when it comes to the New England Patriots. And so I completely agree. Addison does have some injury problems. He does obviously have those off the field issues, but if you can maintain those, then this is a guy that has that wide receiver one potential. Now, unlike Chris Olave, Jordan Addison has actually never put up 1,000 yards on the season. And we can actually pull up his numbers just like we did with Olave, and I can share that for your guys' reference here. But obviously, Jordan Addison hasn't been asked to be a wide receiver one. Chris Olave, pretty much every single year that he's been there in New Orleans, he's been asked to be a wide receiver one. Justin Jefferson is on the other side. And so there's been games where Jordan Addison was asked to be the wide receiver one with Justin Jefferson's out. But if Jay Jettas was healthy, that was your number one guy. That was the coverage dictating wide receiver. What would Jordan Addison look like coming to New England, where game in and game out, every single week, he's going to be asked to be that number one wide receiver? Now, he is also a little bit smaller. He's 5'10", 5'11". So you might think he's going to be more of a slot guy, and I do think that's where he operates the best. But Jordan Addison also has speed. And so with that speed, that is something that you can put on the outside. Obviously, Drake Maye, the best deep passer in football right now. That's the best ball that Drake Maye throws is the deep ball. That's where he likes to operate. Getting him a guy like Jordan Addison, that's where Jordan Addison loves to operate, would obviously be a match made in heaven. Good thing, too, is that Jordan Addison, he's already served that suspension that he got from that whole racing his car incident and whatnot. It feels like very many NFL wide receivers do that. But so far this season, he has an overall grade, according to PFF, of 68. That ranks 42nd out of 82 qualifying wide receivers. He has a receiving grade of 68 also, which it's the same thing. Well, he actually ranks 48 out of 82 qualifying wide receivers. He's been targeted 26 times, 18 receptions, 283 yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. He also does have 2 drops so far on the season, but he's averaging 15.7 yards per reception. He's averaging 4.4 yards after the catch per reception, which is almost half of a first down per catch, which is actually pretty damn good. And when quarterbacks are targeting him, he has an overall, or the quarterbacks, have an overall rating of 85.9. Average depth of target here is 13.8. So this is really a guy that operates well, intermediate to deep. He's going to be that chain mover for you. And so we already have a guy like that in Kayshon Boutte, but these guys operate different. And if you get Kayshon Boutte and you get Jordan Addison on the field at the same time, you can't defend both of them. And now Drake Maye really has 2 options that he can start firing the football down the field deep to. But what that's also going to do is that is going to make the defense start respecting what the Patriots are going to do over the top. They're not going to crowd the box. They're not going to be so worried about taking away the run game that I think even adding a guy like Jordan Addison is kind of like a mind game for opposing defenses, to where it's like, all right, well, shoot, now we got Demario Douglas, Kayshon Boutte, Jordan Addison. We need to start playing a little bit more too high safety. We got to start making sure that we're taking things away over the top and not just stacking the box. And now maybe that opens up the run game a little bit to where the Patriots offense does become maybe multi-dimensional. Now, looking here in 2024 at Jordan Addison's numbers, he had an overall PFF grade of 73.2, a receiving grade of 74.2. He was targeted 92 times with 63 receptions for 875 yards and 9, guys, yes, you are seeing that right, 9 receiving touchdowns. He did have 3 drops on the season last year. He was averaging, again, a really good number of 13.9 yards per reception, 3.5 yards after the catch per reception. And when quarterbacks were targeting him last year with Sam Darnold, he had a passer rating of 122.3. Just like we mentioned with Chris Olave, I want it to be remembered that Jordan Addison is not working with good quarterback play right now, right? Like right now, it's Carson Wentz that he's working with, and you can just tell that everybody in Minnesota is done with Carson Wentz. And so when Jordan Addison has had a good quarterback to work with, he's actually performing even better, right? The good quarterback is elevating his game. Not really a whole lot more quarterbacks playing better football right now than Drake Maye. And so I think you would be seeing a lot of elevation there from Draco himself. And then looking at the numbers from Jordan Addison here in 2023, he was very, very close to putting up 1,000 yards, but didn't quite get there. Had an overall grade, according to PFF, of 68.6, receiving grade of 69.7. He was targeted a lot, okay? So, like, even with Jay Jettas on the field, and Jay Jettas obviously feels like he deals with injuries every single year, Jordan Addison's still getting his share count, 104 targets, 70 receptions, 911 yards, and 10 receiving touchdowns. This is a guy that capitalizes in the red zone, but more specifically, again, because of that speed, a lot of the touchdowns he's getting aren't just like, hey, we're 3 yards away, let's capitalize, it's a short slant, it's a short out route or a corner route or anything like that. Jordan Addison is breaking off some big-time receptions here with that speed and that ability to get behind the second level there of the defense. But to go along with the 911 yards and 10 touchdowns, he did also have 3 drops. He was averaging another really good season of 13 yards per reception, 3.8 yards after the catch per reception, and I believe this was Kirk Cousins at that point. When he was targeting Jordan Addison, he had a passer rating of 98.7. And so, again, these are just 2 of the wide receivers that you are seeing the Patriots being linked back to. I know everybody's thrown out the idea of A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown is an interesting case because he's, 28, 29 years old, and so he hasn't reached that 30 mark just yet. He definitely still has some good play in him. Mike Vrabel obviously has that really good connection, but I feel like based off of what we're hearing from Albert Breer and just the other reports that we're hearing is this team really is only going to pull the trigger and give up the draft compensation that is needed if the guy is going to be young, if he's going to be here for a long time. You got about a season and a half before you got A.J. Brown reaching that 30 mark, and then how much time does he have left, right? Because A.J. Brown's game is purely based off of speed, and it's based off of that physicality. How's that going to dwindle when his body starts to dwindle a little bit more? And so also, it kind of does sound like Philadelphia doesn't want to trade him. And so I would start looking for some of these younger wide receivers. I'd be looking for these wide receivers from teams that are just imploding and maybe are looking to trade that guy off to rebuild, or looking at some of these younger wide receivers who are on their rookie deals and maybe coming off of those rookie deals and they just aren't looking to extend them or just don't have the money to be able to extend them. But this is where I kick it off to you guys. I mean, what are your thoughts? Big shout out to McGoat, who's been a member for 6 months, man. Major shout out to McGoat for being a member for as long as he has. Make sure you guys consider becoming a member of the channel. You get exclusive benefits like exclusive emojis that you guys can spam in the chat, in the watch parties, all that good stuff. He said, we need to look on the both sides of the ball, and I think acquiring somebody like Riq Woolen, pair that with Jordan Addison, and we would be set. McGood, I think you point out a really interesting part because, I think there's a lot to still talk about with the trade deadline. Today, I just wanted to talk about the news involving the wide receiver core, but there's still a lot more to talk about. And the deadline is approaching very, very quickly, and so we're very limited with the amount of time we have to talk about this. But I do want to do another stream where we talk about just everything else that we are hearing because, spoiler alert, while the Patriots have been linked back to running backs and wide receivers, recent reports have come out. I believe it was from Diana Rossini, if I remember correctly. There's been a lot of reports about the Patriots at the trade deadline, but I believe this one was from Diana Rossini, who said it is more likely than not that the Patriots actually look for a trade on the defensive side of the football than they do on the offensive side of the football, which would actually make a lot of sense given where this Patriots, defense has been in terms of rankings. The offense is actually ranked higher than the defense. And so for me personally, I don't think that the cornerbacks are the problem. I do like Riq Woolen a lot, but he's going to come in here. He's going to be cornerback 3. And you're going to have to pay Gonzo soon. He's your cornerback 1. You paid all this money to Carlton Davis. Marcus Jones is playing great football, and he's your cornerback 3. You don't want to take him off the field. He's also in a contract year. I think the issues with the secondary more so come down to the fact that they're not playing to the strengths, right? Like they are playing these cornerbacks more in zone than man. You have 3 cornerbacks that are primarily man-to-man cornerbacks. Marcus Jones is better in man. Carlton Davis last year with the Detroit Lions was one of the best cornerbacks in man coverage. We all know what Gonzo can do in man coverage. And I think that's one of the big problems is that they're just not playing to the strengths of these players. But I also think one of the big issues is the linebackers, right? Like the linebackers are still having a hard time covering. And if you look at a lot of the big plays the Patriots are allowing, it's more so coming in the middle of the field against those linebackers. And so if anything, if we really want to improve this coverage game for the defense, I think it actually might come with needing to look for a coverage linebacker more so than adding another cornerback. I actually think that linebacker and safety at this point are going to be bigger needs than in cornerback is, at least in my opinion. At least in my opinion. But again, guys, we're in season. It's the trade deadline. This isn't free agency, right? Like, you don't want the team going out there and giving up all of their draft picks, because good teams stay good by hitting on their draft picks. And so we don't want to go all in and give up everything and put ourselves in a bind just to be in the playoff picture for a year or two. We want to be in the playoff picture and be contenders the right way. And we want to do it long term and not just be here for 2 years. And again, that does come with making sure you are still hitting on your draft picks that you can have for 4 or 5 years on that rookie deal. So my boy S27 comes in and says, haha, PG, you and I are on the same page. Hey, that's what I like to hear. Hey, it's okay if you have a different opinion than me, as always, but we're on the same page. I certainly love that. And it sounds like SGT Moonshine also feels like, yep, I agree with that. Old Man Mob says, Woolen has been linked to the Bills. Hope they don't get him. Yeah, man. I mean, Woolen would make a lot of sense for the Bills. They need a cornerback desperately. I mean, if we want to talk about what they need desperately, they could also use some help on that D-line, but they are getting some guys back. But, man, Buffalo's inability to stop the run is really their biggest issue. So, let's see. Evan Lazar said the middle of the field is too wide open when they play man because we don't have a robber in the middle of the field. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. I mean, again, I don't think the issue is coming down to these Patriots cornerbacks. I think the issue is coming down to some of the issues or injuries we've had at safety. But I really just think it's the inability for really any of these linebackers to be able to cover out of the backfield. I mean, if you look at it, why do the Patriots struggle so bad against tight ends? Because they don't have a single linebacker that's able to cover a tight end. They don't have a single safety that's really able to cover a tight end. And so, again, I just think that they need to be able to play a little bit more to the secondary strengths, and that is man-to-man coverage. But I think you have to play as much zone as they are because you are playing mobile quarterbacks. But on top of that, if you're playing man-to-man, you're going to be putting your linebackers one-on-one with running backs out of the backfield, with tight ends. And right now, I just don't believe that this coaching staff believes in the linebackers enough to be able to cover one-on-one. And at least if you're playing zone, you're kind of sitting in your specific spot, and even then, the entire team can kind of rally to the football a little bit better. Because if you're playing man-to-man, you're too worried about shadowing your guy, focusing on your guy. If you're playing zone, you can focus on the quarterback's eyes a little bit more. You can kind of play everything that's in front of you, which is why we're seeing so many Patriots defensive players rally around the football, because they're playing so much zone. When you're playing man, you really got to rely on your guy making sure that he secures the tackle, because if he doesn't, that guy's going to go off and he's going to get, a big gain after the catch. But guys, that is going to end it off for today's video, though. I really appreciate all the love that you guys are showing on today's video. Really hope that you liked the recent news here for the Patriots in terms of the trade deadline news that we are hearing. Make sure you guys leave a big like on this video on your way out. If you guys are watching on Twitter, make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you hit that link in the bio to take you on over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button, because you guys on Twitter, you only get notified when I also go live on Twitter. You don't get notified if I only go live on YouTube. You don't get notified if I post a video on YouTube, a short on YouTube, a community post. So there's a lot of breaking news content and just general Patriots content that you might not know about unless you subscribe to YouTube and hit that bell notification. Make sure you guys also stay tuned, because we are going to be doing a giveaway not too long from now, giving away quite a few is what I'll say. We're not doing just one. We're going to be giving away quite a few Patriots rivalry jerseys, and we're talking about the real ones, the real 3D or the real stitch printed one, or the real stitched ones, not those fake printed ones. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. We'll have details dropping for you guys shortly on how you can enter that giveaway. But leave a like on the way out. Subscribe here to Patriots Global for all your Patriots news. And until Friday, when we break down Patriots versus Browns, I will see you guys next time. Go Pats, baby.